The Kawasaki Z650. Does it have the most horsepower in the class? Nope. Does it have the best handling in the class? Nope. Is it the best looking in the class? Nope. Yet still, it's one of, if not the best selling motorcycles in America year after year after year. And today, we're going to try to figure out why. Hey guys, I'm Alan. You're watching the Fireman Rides. All right, so we're gonna try to answer that question. Why is this one of the best selling motorcycles in the US when it really doesn't do anything great and it really doesn't look all that great as well? Now, before we get started, I want to thank the guys over at Team Charlotte Motorsports. Team Charlotte, they're one of, if not the biggest dealer in the Charlotte market on Freedom Drive. They have the Kawasaki's and Yamahas and Suzuki's and Hondas and Polaris. Anything new and used you can think of, Japanese, American, whatever else, is going to be right there. And if your thing's more European, next door, T-Zero Cycle, Aprilia, Moto Guzzi, Vespa, Piaggio, everything European, new and used, you're going to find it right there. So on Freedom Drive in Charlotte, North Carolina, you're going to find everything that you can think of. So again, they gave me the keys to this bike. And again, I'm reviewing all of the mid-size naked sport bikes right now. And this one here was actually was kind of one that was really interesting. Because if you look at it on paper, this is not a very exciting motorcycle. You're just like, okay, it makes 60 something horsepower, it weighs this. They've, this same engine that they've been producing for 20 something years. Why is this bike so popular? And that's what we're going to try to answer today. So before we get started, if you see anything that you like, comment, and subscribe. Subscriptions are the absolute ultimate compliment to me. Let's throw on our gloves. Let's go for a ride. All right, so before we get back on the road, while we're pulled over in this beautiful spot right here on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and that's Mount Pinnacle right over there, one of the highest ranges on the East Coast, let's take a look at this bike. And let's see if the looks have anything to do with why this bike is so popular. So what I really love with Kawasaki is that they're not afraid to go with some bold colors. This one here, you've got that steel trellis frame, but you got that, they painted it that bright ass Kawasaki green color. Now, if you'll notice, yes, you notice right here, these two colors, I don't know if it comes through in the camera, are not quite the same color. So if you want to nitpick that, that's just fine. But everything about it, like I said, is the true definition of a naked sports bike. You've got that really cool kind of angled swing arm here on the back. You've got some nice sport tires. You've got the Dunlop Sport Road Sport 2. They're not the stickiest tire, but they're a good all-around tire. And for a stock tire, that's not a bad tire at all. You could take that tire, you could tour on it, you could do a track day, you could do damn near anything with that tire right there. As you can see, while on this side here, our exhaust comes down into a 2-to-1, our catalytic converter's right underneath here, and it dumps out right underneath the bike. The exhaust really doesn't get in the way of anything. We got our bolt-on passenger pegs right there. We got a nice little basic setup here with our pegs. Everything's nice and comfortable there. And then there's our engine right there. That's our 649cc, 180-degree crank, parallel twin that Kawasaki has been putting in damn near everything. Again, you go get you a Vulcan 650, it's going to be in that. You go get you a Versa 650, it's going to be in that. You go get you a Ninja 650, it's going to be in that. And they've been making basically this exact same engine for going on 20 years now, and it's quite a refined engine. Now, is it the most exciting engine? No, but you know what? It's a testament to how well that engine was designed, is that they're still able to use that engine 20 years later. Tell me how many other engines have they been able to continue using the same engine for the last 20 years? All these other manufacturers, Yamaha, everybody else, they're having to go to a parallel twin to meet emissions regulations. Kawasaki was doing this, again, back 20 years ago with this same motor right here. So, they had a decision to make was, okay, do we scrap what has worked? It may not be the most exciting, but do we scrap what has worked, or do we stick with that and kind of do our own thing? And I kind of, even though it's a boring motor a little bit, I do commend them for doing that right there. All right, so looking at the front of the bike here, again, it's got this really kind of mean looking, almost kind of reminds you of the old Z1000 bike with that mean kind of floating, almost like a Hornet front end right there. And it's a really good look. There's our front suspension. Again, nothing crazy on our forks. They're right side up forks, which in today's day and age is kind of old technology. There's our Nissan brake calipers. They're 2-piston. We do have dual rotors, and you kind of have the wave rotors there. The brakes are not bad. But it is kind of old technology. Like I said, it's old, actually mounted, and it is actually sliding pin technology, which is really, really kind of old technology in this day and age. But you know what? Honestly, again, if you're wanting that low entry price, you're going to get some lower end stuff. But again, everything kind of works together, and the package just works. You see our tail end of the bike right here. There's our big old DOT mandated tail that sticks out past the length of the rear tire. Again, probably one of the very first things people are going to do is they're going to put a quick tail tidy on that, get rid of this whole assembly right here, and tuck everything in right up against there. And it would look so clean. Let's take a look at our dash right here. Again, on our left-hand side on our controls, we have our high beam, low beam here. Here's our selector. You're like, oh, cool, I can go and manipulate the TFT. Nope, no, you can't. The only thing this does right here is it controls the KTRC, which is the Kawasaki Traction Regulator Control System, like that. So, again, you push the button there, it's blinking right there. You go 1, you go 2, and that is basically it. That's all this does right here. You have a hazard button here. You have your horn right there, and on your right side you have your traditional Kawasaki kill start switch here, kill switch right here with a separate starter button here. All right, so while we're here, let's crank the bike up and let's take a listen to it. Okay, it's a 180-degree crank, parallel twin. Kawasaki really has not embraced the 270-degree craze that basically every other manufacturer has done. The KLE 500, it's got the 180-degree crank, 500cc parallel twin. Same thing with a lot of other models, and they just have not spent the money, even though they are the best-selling manufacturer in the States, to really develop that 270-degree crank motor. Here at Idle, it's just got a nice thump to it. Nothing crazy. It's not obnoxious. It's not obtrusive. It's not going to offend anybody with the sound that it makes. Now, once you rev it up, it does kind of sound a little good, and they do make some exhaust systems to this, which makes it sound a lot better. So let's rev it up. Let's take a listen to it. Okay. It sounds pretty good. And like I said, you don't have this big old exhaust sticking up here. It just kind of sticks out to the side. It's not like the Yamahas, where the Yamahas dump the exhaust right into the ground. This kind of dumps straight out, kind of onto that rear brake rotor, onto that swing arm right there. Again, it's not an offensive motorcycle, but it's a motorcycle that just works. And that's what's so special about it is that there's nothing special about it. Again, it's a basic motor, it's a basic frame, it's basic electronics, it's basic brakes. I mean, everything's basic about it, but you take all those things together and it really kind of makes a special package that really resonates with buyers in the United States because, again, year after year after year, this and the Ninja 500, that's the two best-selling motorcycles from the best-selling manufacturer, Kawasaki, in the States year after year after year. All right, and let's talk about maybe the single biggest reason that this is the best-selling motorcycle in the US, and that's just real-world usability. This bike is just useful. Anybody can ride this bike. If you want to commute, go for it. If you want to do track days, go for it. You want to do twisty roads, go for it. You want to putt around with your girl in the back, go for it. This bike is just all day, every day useful. And yeah, I keep saying it only has 67 horsepower. 67 horsepower, guys, it'll get you in a lot of trouble. 67 horsepower is not bad. Again, we're sitting at 5,000 RPM here. We're not even really turning any hard on. You're fine, bud. You're fine. Oh yeah. What a great bike. I know, again, may not be the most exciting motor in the category, but it's a very flexible powertrain. Let's rev this thing up a little bit. Guys, don't be fooled by this bike. It will move. 80. And actually, really, you know, to be a naked bike, the wind at 80 miles an hour is really not that bad. It's really not the issue that I thought it was going to be. It's good, clean air. And actually, I would honestly prefer a naked motorcycle over one that has a fairing that just directs everything right onto your face. Give me that naked, clean air that's going all the way across me, and I can deal with that. And then especially on a motorcycle like this, where you kind of have a little bit of a lean to you, with that wind at speed, it's really kind of pushing you upright, and it's helping to kind of bring you up. Take a little bit of pressure. Well, so this doesn't have a ton, but it takes a little bit of pressure off your hands and puts it right back onto your chest. Let's go through this tunnel right here. Look at this here. What a beautiful spot. This is the Craggy Flats Tunnel, and it's dark. What a cool tunnel. Check this out. Now, notice when you come out, look at this. It's still brown on this side. This is early May. This is, you know, early May 2026. And as soon as you cross over, everything's still brown. This is still winter on this side of the mountain, where everything was beautiful and green on the other side. All right, so let's discuss, you know, one of the main reasons why this bike is so popular. And it really shouldn't be that surprising, and that's price. The MSRP of this bike, the 2025 model, is, you know, $72.99, somewhere in that ballpark. And I'm sure they can be had with some discounts on that. And I think the 26 models are maybe $74.99, somewhere in that ballpark. But price is definitely one of the main factors as to why this is such a popular motorcycle. You get good power. I mean, you get, you know, 65, 68 horsepower. You get good handling. You get good looks. You get a little bit of technology. And this is the price point here that, you know, most people, everybody wants a Panigale V4, but no one's going to spend, not many people are going to spend, you know, $25,000, $30,000 on a Panigale V4. This is a very, very approachable motorcycle with a very approachable price. And that makes it really, really popular with riders. And honestly, this is the price point that, you know, most new or newer riders, or, you know, budget conscious riders, this is the price point that they're going to be picking, not the 15, not the 20, not the 10, even $10,000 range. It's this $5,000 to $7,000 range, and this bike is dead nuts in the center of it. Insurance is really not that bad. I even looked at it. Now, go look at something like an MT-07. That bike has got a bad reputation, and for good reason, with insurance companies. And that thing is incredibly expensive to insure. This one, not so much. This and the SV650, it's like everybody's like, you know, it's not going to hurt anything. But man, I tell you, it's a fun bike. Check this tunnel out here. What a cool tunnel. We're going to go around it? Nope, we're going through it. It's this tunnel or the next one that the weather changes, that you literally go on the other side of the range, and the weather, I mean, it sometimes completely changes from one side to the other. It's crazy. All right, so reason number one why this thing's so popular: price. Plain and simple, price. All right, next point as to why people buy this bike all the time and why it's one of the best-selling bikes in the country is that it's kind of hits that Goldilocks category of motorcycles. And what I mean by that, and as it relates to this motorcycle, is that is it a big bike? No. Is it a small bike? No. It's just right sized. Does it have a huge engine? No. Does it have a tiny little engine that doesn't make any power? No. It's got that 649cc parallel twin that Kawasaki's been making damn forever, and it's just right size. The ergonomics, they're not straight upright, they're not leaned over like this, they're just right there in the middle. So this is one of those motorcycles that you could really call the Goldilocks of motorcycles. And that's another reason why it's so popular with riders, and it's one of the best selling bikes in America year after year after year after year. All right, the third reason why this is so popular. Now, this one here, this is not only for men, but this is also for women. The combination of an easy to handle motorcycle and lightweight enough to be able to, push it around, roll it around, really be able to move the bike around, and have a suspension and chassis that is compliant yet responsive. Oh shit! Well, I thought we were gonna have a collision. Oh boy, I thought we were gonna have a collision. Hey, I know what I was talking about now. All right, so let's discuss, who is this bike for? We've already talked about that. It's one of the most popular bikes, being sold today. But really, who is the target market for this, inexpensive, naked, kind of boring motorcycle? And you'd be surprised, there's actually quite a few people. So number one, and it's pretty obvious, it's beginners, but it's not. There's two different types of beginners. So there's the beginner who says, you know what, I want to skip the 300 class. I don't want to start with a 300 class motorcycle. So there's the rider who is a beginner, but says, you know what, I don't want to start off on a 300. I don't want to get a 300 and then have to turn right around and get a bigger motorcycle. So that's somebody who's a little bit older, a little bit more experienced in life, not on motorcycles, but just in general, and a little bit more mature, and somebody who could handle the kind of the responsibility of learning how to ride a motorcycle. And this bike is perfect for that person right there. Now, on the other side of that, the person who is, who did start on the 300 bike, and now that they've progressed past that, and they want to move up to a bigger motorcycle, this motorcycle is perfect for that person as well. So again, both beginners in that beginner class, but one is, again, the more mature person, maybe not older, but the more mature person who could say, okay, you know what, I'm getting on a bike that's really bigger than what I'm ready for, but I can ride it with some sort of common sense. That would not have been me. I'll be completely honest. That wouldn't have been me right there. I would have been in the latter category. You better start me in the smallest thing possible, because I'm going to rip ass once you put me on the bike. The next person would be like the I only want one motorcycle person. Okay, that's fine, and that's great. I don't know who. That sounds like a punishment to me. You can only have one motorcycle. That sounds like absolute punishment. I'd rather you pull out my fingernails than limit me to one motorcycle. But for the person, and there's some people out there, there's psychopaths that only want one motorcycle. And if that's you, this is a great bike. It'll do a little bit of everything. You're like, okay, I want to commute on it, but I also want to do an occasional track day. I want to ride with my buddies up to the mountains, and every now and then I want to take my not very large girlfriend on the back and take her on dates. If you only want one motorcycle, this is a great bike for that. The next would be short people. I don't know any better way to put it. Is people with a small inseam. How about that? Maybe not short people, but people with a smaller inseam. I'm 5'10", 230 pounds. I've got a 32-inch inseam. I fit on this motorcycle. I'm probably about the maximum that would fit on this motorcycle comfortably. Not saying could you fit on it if you were any taller or any bigger, but I'm probably the max as far as height and weight that would be comfortable on this motorcycle. But somebody with a shorter inseam, 30 inches, 28 inches. I was, messaging with a guy on one of my comments about, the NX 500, and he said, I got that bike because I have a 28-inch inseam, and I had a Transalp, and it was just kind of drama every time he wanted to do something, and having that lower seat height really made him more confident as a rider. And I was okay. That's great. That's a great case scenario, and that's why he got that bike. This is the same thing. I have no intentions of riding off-road. I just want an awesome street bike that can do a little bit of everything, but I'm vertically challenged. This is your bike right here. It really is. And the last I would say is women, just women in general. Again, it's a lightweight bike, a relatively lightweight bike.
Moderate power. Again, we already talked about how the low ground clearance, or getting your feet on the ground, low seat height. It's a really appealing bike to women, and not just starter riders, but really just women in general. It's a good looking bike. They tend to go with looks over function anyway, but this one's got the looks and it has the function. So again, all right, so we've got brand new riders who don't want to ride a 300 class bike. We got brand new riders who are moving up from a 300 class bike. We've got women, and we've got shorter inseam people. Again, and people who just want one motorcycle. If that's you, this would be a great bike for you. All right, so now let's cover who is this bike not for. This is kind of a category I usually don't do, but again, this bike is not going to fit everybody, and let's discuss that. So number one, if you're a speed junkie, this is not your bike. 67, 68, 69 horsepower on a good day, this is not your motorcycle. A lot of bikes in this class don't have more horsepower, but they have more spunk. How about that? That's a good term there. Like your MT-07 or something like that. Even your SV650. If you want to stay in the mid-size naked bike, but you want something that just makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, this is not your bike. And if you just want flat out speed, this is not your bike. Will it do triple digits? Oh yeah, it'll do triple digits. But is it comfortable doing that? No. If I need to do 140 miles an hour, well, you need to go get you a ZX6R or even a ZX10R, and God bless you. Or even just the Ninja 650 with the full fairings. But this is not for the speed junkie of the group. Please stop. It seems like more people want to pull out in front of you on the Blue Ridge Parkway than anywhere else that I've ever ridden. All right, so the second person, this is not for tech junkies. If you're a speed junkie, or if you want, I want all the technology, this is not your bike either. I know. Look, it's got a TFT screen, and that's great, but that's about it. It doesn't have a quick shifter. It doesn't have cruise control. It doesn't have rider modes. It's got traction control. It's got one level of traction control, which turns the on and off basically. They call it level 1. They call it level 2. Well, Alan, you got a joystick right here. Yeah, but it really doesn't do anything except for control that. To get into the TFT, you got to hold these two buttons down, and I highly would not recommend doing that while you're riding. It looks high tech, but it's really not. So if you're a tech junkie, this is not your bike either. And the third group I would say this is not for is if you're a long distance tourer. If you're like, you know what, I'm going to go do an iron butt. I'm traveling to, from North Carolina to Alabama to go see the Crimson Tide play. This is not your bike. I want to do a cross country trip. This is not your bike. Anything but this bike, honestly. It's naked. It's about as naked as it could be. You are really locked into one position. Now, it's a comfortable position for this, but for long distance, being tucked in this one position right here, I don't think I want to do that. So again, we'll recap. If you're a speed junkie, not your bike. If you're a tech junkie, this is not your bike. And if you're a long distance rider, this is not your bike. I promise you, this is not your bike. All right, so while we're riding along this beautiful, beautiful section of the Blue Ridge Parkway, let's talk about the competition. This is a competitive market. And this is not like the lightweight or low displacement ADV bike that was nothing, all of a sudden it blew up. This has been a hot market for some years now. So let's do a quick dive into the competition. But one thing I want you to notice about the competition, and all these bikes I'm going to mention, the heart of the story, the main character is the engine. Okay? All these bikes, the main character is the engine. This bike here, it's not. Okay? And if that doesn't make any sense, it will by the time I get done explaining it. So let's start with kind of the apex predator of the category. That's the Yamaha MT-07. MT-07 is built off the 270-degree crank parallel twin that Yamaha has been putting in damn near everything. The Tenere 700, MT-07, R7. That is a great motor with a ton of character. Similar horsepower numbers, but the torque curve is just as flat as something that's very flat. That is a heck of a motorcycle, and the engine is the main character in that book. Next would be the SV650. The old, the what they used to be called the poor man's Ducati is the SV650. That is one of my all-time favorite motorcycles, and we will be reviewing that motorcycle as part of this, mid-size naked comparison series. But the SV650. Now, that bike has been around since 2001. So you want to talk about a market that's been established? 2001 is when they came out with the original carbureted SV650. 2003, or was it 99? Anyway, it came out early this century. How about that? And then 2003, it got fuel injection. And then it basically, the bike didn't change all the way up to like 2013, whatever it was. And then they killed it for a year. And then they brought it back as the Gladius, the SFV 650. And it was the most god-awful, ugly thing. It had been beaten with the ugly stick in its time off. And then Suzuki finally came to their senses and brought it back to the SV650 about 2017, I think. And they basically been selling the same motorcycle ever since. Is it old-fashioned? Yes. Is it tried and true reliable? Yes. Is it still one of the absolute best track day platforms that somebody could get? Yes. Now, it's not really competitive anymore in Moto America because of all the all the parallel twins that have come into the scene. But for years and years and years, that was the poor man's bike right there. Get you an SV650, and you could be very competitive at track days, or even in like the twins class of Moto America with an SV650. I don't want to run over you. And again, the V-twin is the star of the show. That's the headline with the SV650. It's even the V. It's even in the name. It's in there right there. Next is going to be the CB650R. Now, again, this is a little bit different. So we've kind of covered all different categories so far. This is a 4-cylinder. This is an inline 4. It's a really high-tech bike. It's got the E-shift, really smooth inline 4-cylinder. It's got all the technology. It looks the part. That's your more high-tech bike in this category, and it also costs more than some of the other competition. But if you want something a little bit more premium, and again, we're going to test that bike as well, then the CB650R is your bike. Now, another new bike, now again, it's a little bit higher up in price, and it's a little bit more of a premium option, is the Triumph Trident 660. Again, the engine is the heart of the show. The 660 triple is a great motor. I had that motor in my Tiger 660, and even in that platform, it was a hell of a motor. And again, the engine is the star of the show. So again, higher up in price, higher up in horsepower, but still a somewhat competitor to this bike here. Now, staying in the Triumph family, I'm going to go back a generation of motorcycles. The Street Triple, but not the current Street Triple, not the 765, the old 675. That motor was very, very, competitive with this bike right here. I had multiple Triumph 675 triples, and that is, again, one of my all-time favorite motorcycles. That is probably the sweetest engine I have ever ridden in any platform, ever. It's an absolute awesome engine. But again, the engine is the star of the show. The package is really good. Honestly, I'd put that Street Triple R package with the good brakes and the adjustable suspension and all that stuff up against anything, and that was a hell of a track weapon. Now, the new bike, the 765, I really think that they've gone way too upmarket to really consider this competition anymore. But the old 675, which you can still find tons of, $5,000, you can find you an incredible 675 triple and do all kinds of stuff with it. But the new one, no, 765, no, I wouldn't really consider that competition against this bike here. Now, let's stick in Europe for a little bit, and let's go over to Austria, or India now, I'm not really sure. But the Duke 790, a lot bigger of an engine, and an engine that has got a reputation for eating camshafts. But again, it's a naked motorcycle. They called it the Scalpel, or whatever they did it, and then the 890 was a Super Scalpel. Now they got a 990. But the 790 is still being sold. Now, the 790 is being built in China now, and but so take that for what it's worth. But it is still a naked bike in that quote unquote mid-size category. That if you're considering one, you'd be considering that one as well. What's up, buddy? Now, I'll throw you one final competitor in there, and that's coming from the land of the rising sun, and that, not the land of the rising sun. That's it's going to come from the land of Mushu Gaipan, and that's going to be the CF Moto 650 NK. I don't know a ton about that bike. I do know some about CF Moto. I have an Ibex 450, and that's a great bike. I do know that CF Moto has been making strides upon strides upon strides as far as the quality of their motorcycles. And that's another one that that comes in at a really, really competitive price point. That, again, if you're looking for that naked midweight, that's something you're probably going to end up looking at. So there's your competition right there. Again, MT-07, SV650, CB650R, Trident 660, the old 675 triple, and the Duke 790, and then this CF Moto 650 NK. Now, again, I'm sure there's something I forgot, and I'm sure if I forgot something, I'm sure you're going to hit the comment button, and you're going to remind me in the comments of what I forgot. All right, so let's talk about the pros and cons of this here Kawasaki Z650. Let's talk about a pro. It's cheap. It's an inexpensive bike, and that's what's made it so. That's one of the reasons it's been so popular, is that the price point, the entry point, is so low, and that's what makes it so popular. So price is definitely a pro on this here bike. Cons. It's a little boring. If we're going to be honest, this 180-degree crank motor that that Kawasaki's been putting in damn near everything, from the Vulcan 650 to the Versa 650 to this bike here to the Ninja 650 to the, I think, even the 650 Eliminator. It's a great motor, but it's just a little boring. It just really is, and that's okay. Boring's okay. Again, I've mentioned cottage cheese before. I love cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is boring, but I like cottage cheese because it's always going to taste like cottage cheese. This bike is going to be boring, but it's always going to be a bike that's going to perform for you, and it's going to meet your expectations always, and it's not going to leave you stranded. So again, there's something for that right there. Let's talk about another pro. This is a confidence-inspiring bike. And what do you mean by confidence-inspiring? Well, from the seating position, it's a very non-intimidating seating position. This is not one where you're hunched way over the wheel, or you're straight back, or your legs are down lower, or they're tucked up too tight. Just everything about this motorcycle, from the way the power is delivered, to the way it sounds, to the way it handles, to the way that you fit on the bike, it just inspires confidence. And this is a bike. I talked about who's this bike for? Somebody getting back into motorcycles. If you're hey, look, I know how to ride, but I haven't rode in 20 years, and I get a lot of comments from people like, a guy had cancer. He said he hadn't rode in 40 years, and he wants to get back on. Hey, you know what? If you're not looking to go off road, this would be a great bike for that. This is a bike that helps you build confidence and riding. All right, so let's talk about another con. The vibrations. Even right now, I'm in fourth gear, 40 miles an hour, 4,000 RPM, the 3/4s, and I'm getting vibrations. I'm getting vibrations in my butt, getting vibrations in my feet, and a little bit in my hands. And this 180-degree, parallel twins in general are going to have vibrations. They're not naturally balanced. They're not a 4-cylinder. They're not a V4. They're not a flat 6. And that's the only motors that really have no, primary or secondary vibrations to them. A parallel twin, unless it's got a ton of balancer shafts on it, and even then, they still tend to vibrate. It's just going to be a motor that has some vibrations to it, and this one is no exception. All right, let's talk about another con, and we're going to just demonstrate it right here. The suspension tends to get a little upset once you push it too hard, and we're going to push it a little bit right here. Once you start pushing this bike a little bit hard, it tends to get a little upset. And again, this is very smooth pavement. This is a Blue Ridge Parkway. You expect it to be smooth pavement here. But if you hit a little bump, kind of mid-turn, the bike tends to get upset. Or if you're really pushing it hard, this bike really doesn't like to be upset mid-turn, and it really starts to kind of start moving around on you. And that's not fun. That's not fun at all for anybody. So as far as the suspension goes, like I said, it's non-adjustable suspension, and it's not the best suspension. It's right side up forks. So it's one of those where, the suspension's fine when you're not asking too much of it. But once you really start pushing it and you start asking a lot out of the suspension, it can tend to get upset Pretty easily. And we'll finish off with one more positive, and that would be the ergonomics. Again, talking about the confidence part, this is a very comfortable motorcycle as far as the ergonomics. The bars are kind of weird, and I was watching Yami Noob's video on this, and he said it felt like a tricycle, and I kind of see what he means. If you look at the bars have a really strong pullback, both sides here, and they pull back to you. So you're sitting more like this than you are out like this. I'm gonna speed up. 30 miles an hour, 2,000 RPM. Come on, bring it, just powers right through. Great little motor. But the bar almost has too much pullback to it. I think this would feel a lot better and a lot more, a lot sportier with a more of a flat style bar. So, but as far as for ergonomics, just for regular ergonomics, to see the pullback here, as far as regular ergonomics, it's pretty good. It really is. This area is finally recovering. We're going on 2 years now, and you can see all these trees down. This is all from Hurricane Helene. That was in October of 2024. So we're going on 2 years now, and you can still see all the damage that occurred during that hurricane. And there were big sections of the Blue Ridge Parkway that were shut down. I mean, we did a lot of volunteer work up in Asheville, up in West Asheville specifically, and just from areas were devastated. Now again, I'm an elected official, so I'm in the municipal sector, and the city of Asheville actually lost their water system, their primary and their backup mains. I mean, for weeks, if not months. Now you want to talk about a hairy situation? Shut off a municipal water source. That's bad right there, and that's what happened. Road closed, 22 miles ahead. Okay, that number keeps going up. Every single time I ride this road, that number goes up a little bit more, which means they're getting sections back open. There were whole sections of the Blue Ridge Parkway that washed away. I mean, they were gone. And so they're still, a year and a half, almost 2 years later, still rebuilding a lot of these sections of the roads. I mean, that was a incredible, hopefully once in a lifetime storm. Yeah, this thing's very comfortable. I mean, this is very flickable, very comfortable. I like it a lot. Let's skip this one here. We'll go to something a little bit more private. A lot of people out here today. Now again, fifth gear, 45 miles an hour. This thing's turning 3,000, 4,000 RPM. It's just happy as it can be. This bike is not upset. It'll do basically anything you want to do at these speeds. So the combination of being lightweight and easy handling, it really equals mass appeal for damn near anybody. The steel trellis frame, it's a nice firm frame. So I mean, a nice stiff frame, and that really kind of gives you that sporty nature to it. But then, like I said, it's not that heavy. It's the ergonomics are great. The power's right there. Again, just like the last point, the Goldilocks. The combination of a good handling bike that doesn't weigh a ton and is not very intimidating equals a bike that appeals to just about everybody.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap up our comprehensive ride and review of the Kawasaki Z650. Now, again, in the intro, we asked the question, is that why is this basically a plain motorcycle in today's standards? Why is it such a good selling motorcycle? And I think we answered that with the ride. What makes it special is the fact that there's nothing special. It doesn't make the most horsepower. It doesn't handle the best. It doesn't look the best. But you know what? Once you combine all the elements, the price, the power, the ergonomics, the looks, once you kind of bring all that stuff together, the package really starts to make sense. And you're like, oh, okay, there's not a specific group of people that are interested in this bike. This is a bike that kind of appeals to everybody. If you're an experienced rider, this bike appeals to you. If you're a beginner rider, this bike appeals to you. It just kind of appeals to everybody, and they sell a ton of them year after year. Now, if this is a motorcycle that you're interested in, now that's a segue. Team Charlotte Motorsports. They gave me the keys to this bike. They've got this bike. They've got a couple other models of the Z650, as well as the fully fared Ninja 650, as well as every other Kawasaki and every other Honda and Yamaha and Suzuki and Polaris on Freedom Drive in Charlotte, North Carolina. And if your thing is more European, you want that more flair, go get you an Aprilia or a Moto Guzzi or a Piaggio or a Vespa. Next door, T's Eurocycle. So basically on Freedom Drive, you're gonna find anything and everything on 2 wheels, 4 wheels, because they got the ATVs and the side-by-sides, as well as no wheels because they've got the personal watercraft. Guys, it's May 2026. Go buy you a personal watercraft and go get out on the water. Team Charlotte Motorsports, T's Eurocycle. I'm telling you guys, Freedom Drive, Charlotte, North Carolina. If you're not in the Charlotte market, call them up, go on the website. Charlotte Douglas International Airport is literally 5 minutes away. You could fly in and ride your motorcycle home. You can't do that with the ATVs, and you can't really do that with the personal watercraft for obvious logistical reasons. But give those guys a call, go on their website, all their information will be down below here. So I gotta thank those guys again. So again, if you see anything that you like, comment, subscribe. Subscriptions are the absolute ultimate compliment, and I truly do. I celebrate every single subscription to this channel with a little fist bump or a little dance or whatever it is. Can't really dance. So thank you guys for watching. God bless, roll tide, and remember, tomorrow needs you. Thanks, guys.